Today on Straight Talk Africa, we discuss recent presidential election petitions. First in Ghana, where the incumbent John Dramani Mahama has sustained a challenge by the opposition New Patriotic Party candidate Nana Akufo-Addo. The Supreme Court upheld Mahama's victory following a thorough examination of voter irregularities. Other presidential incumbents have also returned to power despite charges of fraud. So, how is the democratic process working on the African continent? That's coming up next, right here on Straight Talk Africa. Hello, welcome to Straight Talk Africa. It's Wednesday, September 4th. I am Shaka Ssali.
And hello to you, Shaka, and hello to all our viewers and listeners on the continent and in the diaspora. I'm Mariama Diallo, your social media reporter.
Today, we'll discuss Africa's disputed elections and Supreme Court challenges.
And coming up later in our STA inbox, you, our audience, have responded to today's topic through your emails and Facebook comments. We'll reveal some of them ahead on Straight Talk Africa.
From Ghana to Uganda, in Kenya, Nigeria, and in Zimbabwe, there appears to be a pattern in the presidential election process. A voter, a victor, the loser cries foul, and the incumbent remains in power. On closer examination, my colleague Paul Sisco finds the independence of the judiciary, the election commission, and the media may be more important than the final vote count.
Citing voter irregularities and problems with the process, the main opposition New Patriotic Party petitioned the Ghanaian court to annul President John Dramani Mahama's election victory in the December 12th presidential vote. Justice William Atugaba.
Is that the first respondent was validly elected and the petition is therefore dismissed?
The Supreme Court ruled that President Mahama had been validly elected after beating the New Patriotic Party candidate Nana Akufo-Addo. Before the ruling, the court case challenge and investigation was broadcast live on television and radio throughout Ghana. Elsewhere, the review process has been less transparent with questionable results. Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has been repeatedly returned to office despite fraudulent and disputed elections, according to the opposition and some observers.
And clearly the institutions of state charged with the management of the elections have failed our country.
International election observers monitoring the 2011 vote also expressed concerns about the lack of a level playing field, the questionable use of money, and the abuse of the incumbency during the election process. In Kenya, the March 4th presidential, legislative, and municipal elections were the first since the violent disputed election in 2007 that left more than 1,300 people dead. President Uhuru Kenyatta managed a narrow victory without a runoff. At the end of the month, the Supreme Court upheld the win, rejecting opposition candidate Raila Odinga's petition, citing unfair election practices. Zimbabwe's Robert Mugabe was re-elected as president for a seventh term in a vote on July 31st. The vote was firmly rejected by the opposition and leader of Zimbabwe's Movement for Democratic Change Party, Morgan Tsvangirai.
The MDC totally rejects the 31 July elections on the basis of A, the process, and B, the absence of reforms. The fraudulent and the stolen election has plunged Zimbabwe into a constitutional, political, and economic crisis.
Zimbabwe's High Court dismissed the challenge within weeks, and President Mugabe was sworn in for a new 5-year term on August 22nd.
We have had peaceful elections. We have had free elections. We have had fair elections. As for those old Western countries who happen to hold a different, negative view of our electoral process and outcome, well, there is not much we can do about them. We dismiss them as the vile ones whose moral turpitude we must mourn.
The opposition charges that up to 1 million eligible voters of the 6.4 million registered were unable to cast their ballots. It withdrew its election challenge, believing justice could not be done with an election commission and judiciary filled with Mugabe sympathizers. It's been said that freedom, like democracy, is always a work in progress. While the election process appears to be moving forward in democratic Ghana, elsewhere on the continent, the need for continued vigilance seems apparent. Paul Sisco, VOA News.
Thanks, Paul, for that report. Joining